It's a generational difference.
Zoomers.
Hey, I'm participating in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression series with 3 other VTuber friends of mine. Follow the 4 of us on Twitch where we alternate streaming each set, Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
How long do you need? We can This is a stream full of yammers. We can yap all day. How long do you need? 5 minutes?
You know what? Actually, I have something to yap about, if nobody minds, and it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Related, so it's actually related to the stream. Alright,
I hope it's Mimicles.
I was recently, so I try my best not to argue with people on the internet. I don't succeed always, but I do.
Great start, great start.
Where are we going with this?
So, what's it called? Maxx, you all know the card.
Oh,
you all are familiar with
no.
Maxx, right?
Hey,
I need the image. This is the 1
I have a
million.
friend who sucks. I have a friend who sucks like OCG deck, right? I'm sorry. Wait, this is a. Like,
I'm going to your chat and clicking the swear jar.
Wait. How far are we into the stream? Okay, 10 minutes into the stream. It's fine. So I have a friend who sucks OCG deck, right? So what's it called? Basically, they consistently try to argue me into the position of like what's it called, Maxx being like a good card, and I highly disagree. But then recently they linked me like a ban list discussion for the OCG by like an OCG player or whatever, and I had to listen to the dumbest argument possible when it comes to like why what's it called, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like people are like stupid or whatever for thinking that Maxx wouldn't be banning the OCG because of Mulchummy or whatever. You all know Mulchummy is like a bad Maxx. It's not even a bad Maxx. It's like worse than a bad Maxx. What's it called? And you all know about that card.
A side.
Yeah, the first one. Like, this was before the second one was revealed, okay? But anyway, the reason that I find it extremely stupid is that and the reasons cited were the most stupid ones possible. Where number one was because of the gambling culture in Japan, where like what's it called? The reasons they are able to, what's it called? One of the reasons that they are able to tolerate Maxx to a level is because of the gambling culture there, and also because of what's called. They also have like a regard for pet deckers, is what they said, where like they can't risk like losing the stupid Animancipator players or whatever. So they don't want to ban like, for example, they don't want to ban like a VFD for virtual worlds or whatever, or Block Dragon for like an Emancipator or whatever. Like they want to avoid those kinds of things because like that would like might end up like losing them a player that will like move on to another card game or whatever.
Whip.
And like,
Whip.
yes.
Breathe.
What's it? Okay. Oh, right now, I'm not even at the point where I have to read. Okay, I'm sorry. We're not even that far into it. Okay, so the point is what's called. The point where is that like their argument is essentially like, you know, the stupid ass argument that everyone makes fun of in the TCG, but now people are like, oh yes, the culture Japanese are like actually very clever about this. So no, it's basically the argument of like, actually, Ice Barrier Timmy, he needs his Hulkify Brax. Like we can't ban Hulk because Ice Barrier Timmy needs it for his deck to function. Like no, I hate that argument so much. It's like the stupidest argument, but then it's like viewed as some kind of like reasonable sort of like a reasonable statement just because it's like Japanese or whatever. I always hate that kind of like what's called cultural dissonance argument because of the FGC argument. Yes, this happens in the FGC, this happens in Smash, this happens in every single hobby where there's any level of Japanese player participation, because they will always view it as like, yes, this cultured viewpoint of like is much deeper than actually what you Westerners
simply wouldn't understand.
Actually,
they're on a different level of thinking from us.
You simply
and their tiny little fisherman locals. The little fisherman locals. Imagine they couldn't win their 4-player local if they didn't have Maxx in their checks list Malice Everest deck. Yeah. Like
you
imagine.
You simply cannot understand the arguments for having VFD put to 1. All right, that is simply beyond your comprehension. All right, that is simply a thing that only Japanese players can understand because of their gambling culture. And you know what? Has anyone ever cited like gambling culture as a positive before? Has anyone looked at like, yes, don't worry, Singapore has like actually a very deep culture or whatever, because they have what's called their culture is accepting of many more different things than other ours because because of their gambling culture. They have their entire economy is fueled by the gamblers of the nation. So that means that they are willing to accept these things, which means that it's actually a good decision that their company has made.
Who is hosting in Edison to call me out? What the fuck? I see you there. Okay. All right. Then you go away. Yeah. Okay. Yukichi, what's the name of those totally not slot machines in Japan that have the balls for prizes?
Oh.
Gotcha.
Pachinko.
Pachinko, that's what it is. Yeah. Because pachinko culture is a great argument to make from a video game. Is that they have culture there, like pachinko machines. Yeah, exactly. The peak of culture, pachinko machines and gotcha. Yeah. Great.
I will say
culture in the America for Indian.
True. Let's go gambling.
I hope
90% of gamblers stop right before they win it big.
nobody's been like, oh yes, the Native Americans are actually very blessed because they have the right to be have their entire societies fueled solely by casinos. That's actually a
Is
very
that not
positive
cool as
thing.
hell? Is that
No, it's. You know what? I'm not getting into that. I'm gonna have a heated gamer moment.
I
much
will
I
say.
hate
Wait,
Like,
yeah,
the-
Yukichi, how do you feel about this? You work in a casino.
So
Do you work on a
I
native
will
Tanuki
say,
run casino?
no, we don't have any of those in Ringo City. There's no nature.
Oh,
Anyway, actually, no, that's a lie. I just lied. There is one. It's directly adjacent to the only one directional subway station in the city. But anyway, so I watched the same video that Whip is talking about, and so the issue that I think a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players run into, both on the in general, not specifically about the Maxx argument, is that people kind of, and actually it's an issue with internet discourse in general, is that people take they conflate explanations and defenses as being the same thing. Because I definitely do think that the gambling culture thing is an explanation for the legality of Maxx, but it's not a justification for it, which I think I also disagreed with that in the video. But the other thing is, and I saw some Japanese players talk about this on the internet once years ago, is people have this mindset, or people in the TCG, so people who speak English or other non-Japanese languages or whatever, is they have this viewpoint that, oh, because the card is legal, then that just means nobody sees a problem with it, which is obviously not true, because we can see in the TCG that cards people have problems with don't get banned. And I think the viewpoint that people kind of ignore or just choose not to acknowledge is that sometimes things just exist and you have to deal with them.
I'm sorry. If it was true if it was true gambling culture, they should limit Maxx.
Yes. The last format we had, Maxx.
Oh, oh god.
Sorry.
I used to play fucking
Or-
Sangan and search my one Maxx in that format. Ugh.
Or
Gross.
that format where Wavering Eyes was at 1 during the pendulum meta.
Ugh.
But no, I think something that people just kind of don't like to think about is that you can not like that a card is part of the format, but acknowledge, okay, well, it exists in the format, so I have to play around it, instead of just throwing up your arms and crying all the time. Which, granted, there's dumb stuff in the TCG, and I complain about it all the time. Even in Rush Duel, I complain about Dragius all the time. But, Dragius isn't going to get banned because it's an anime character ace monster, and we're not doing Firewall Dragon twice. So I just have to deal with it and acknowledge, okay, I need to be prepared for the fact that someone could have this. It was the same thing with very, very early Rush Duel. I was talking to Luna about this when we did our Rush Duel collab, is very early Rush Duel was defined by Dark Liberation, which is Mirror Force and Pot of Avarice as the same card, but exclusive to spellcasters. And to this day, Rush Duel design is still designed around Dark Liberation. All boss monsters have to have some form of protection from trap cards. And, to this day, I will continue to complain that Dark Liberation exists, even though it's no longer part of the metagame. Spellcasters are good, but Dark Liberation is, it's not good because everything's
You
designed
gotta
around
explain what Dark
existing.
Liberation is. Hold on. What do you mean, Pot of Avarice and Rush Duel and Mirror Force? I mean,
It shuffles back
Yes.
5 spellcasters to Mirror Force.
Yes. It's
Ow.
when your opponent's monster declares an attack, shuffle 4 spellcasters from your graveyard into your deck and destroy all attack position monsters your opponent controls.
And
So,
recycling is
brings
also
up-
very important in that game, since you
Yes.
deck out very fast or there's no searcher. You need to be able to recycle
And
your shit.
the protagonist of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s plays Spellcaster, so Spellcasters were naturally one of the better decks in early Rush Duel. So the entire game is still designed around its existence, despite the fact that it's no longer an active part of the metagame because of that. And in early Russian Duel and even now, I will continue to complain that Dark Liberation exists, but I acknowledge that it is part of the format and it's something that I have to be prepared for, except in Duel Links, because it's not in Duel Links.
I think there's like a difference between what you're saying and like what's called the reality of the situation, because first of all, one of the only things, like, TCG players have their opinions and everything, and of course they are able to some degree, at least through their complaints, influence the TCG ban list and the like. I mean, we can see that just because like basically every like sentiment that has been reflected in the TCG player base recently has like been reflected in like the ban list, like the floodgates being banned, and even circular being banned, which I'm personally still very happy about, even if people are really mad about it.
No, Cyberse doesn't deserve anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. Also, what's called but the difference, I think, is that the OCG players specifically are like in a completely different situation, because they don't just like, their opinions don't only influence the ban list, their opinion also influences like,
card design.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's like a massive dissonance, I think, because the most the TCG players or whatever can like get out of it is like, we can like get some TCG exclusive cards or whatever. And what does that gotten us? More super poly targets. Whoop de fucking do, right?
It got us Nibiru. It literally got us Nibiru.
Yeah, Nibiru is another thing, right? Like, it's all like cope is what I'm saying.
And Shifter and Dark Ruler, all in the same set. Still cannot believe that.
TCG responses are all like cope rather than like printing a new kind of like direction of card design. Like, if people in Japan or whatever, like, I don't understand, like, if people in Japan had the same response, like, that the TCG has to like TCG players have to 1-card starters. So like, I don't understand how they could print any card that has come out in the past 2 or 3 sets. Because they're all the same shit. They're all the exact same shit.
3 effects, search on summon, recursion effect.
Yeah, and they're doing the field spell thing.
What it all comes down to at the end of the day is that Konami will just continue to be Konami, and we can't do anything about that.
We choose to stay in the environment.
Like, no, I just don't buy product.
Yeah, no, fair. People keep asking. I complain about the game, and people ask me, "Why do you still play the game then?" And I always say, like, "Well, there's nothing like it, and I really love the feel of the game, so I'll put up with the bullshit. And if it gets really bad, I'll just like, I always say I'll take a break. I never take a break. I've barely missed any locals in the last 9 years of my life. But I will just like, all right, well, like right now, I'm like, I mean, everything kind of is ridiculously broken, and I don't have fun, and it's really hard to beat these decks if you don't like open 3 hand traps going second, 2 of which are floodgate hand traps, by the way. So I'm just gonna build Mimigools and have fun. And if I go 1 and 3, cool, awesome. I don't care. They can slave away and suffer over there in the corner with their Fiendsmith engravers that they paid $300 for.
Yeah, I get like that's another thing, right? Because even though the design direction is like awful or whatever, like I don't like the current direction that they're going in card design. That's not even the thing that's like stopping me from playing entirely. The main reason I'm not playing is simply because of the pricing out of the format, and that's the TCG's fault. That's like 1,000,000,000% the TCG's fault.
I don't know if I've told the story of when I tried to go to 2018 Nationals and I wasted like $1,000 to build Trickster Sky Striker because I wanted my first actual Nationals that I had an invite to be like as try-hard as possible. And so I built what I thought was the best deck, paid a bunch of money for it, had no fun. I hated every match that I played. Every gameplay pattern was cringe and I hated it. I didn't make day 2, and I decided, you know what? I'm only going to build decks if they're not $100 staples and if they're fun. I'm never going to build a deck that's just meta, and I'm never going to pay more than like $40 for it. I think the most I've paid for a single Yu-Gi-Oh card in the last year was like $30, and I had to convince myself. And I'm so much happier for it. It's like light and day.
I was with that, but like Chaos Angel was like, do I really spend $80 to $120 on like 2 to 3 copies of Chaos Angel, or do I just
only got my Chaos Angels. I got 1 Chaos Angel as a gift. I traded for another one. I have ulti late lovelies, and I traded for or pulled all of them. So that's the only reason I have them.
Also, Unks and Blue on Blue both bring up what's called an interesting point where one of the weird things that happened is that the OCG will design cards with Maxx in mind, where like the TCG will just like end up with those cards even without Maxx, which ends up in some really agonizing formats. But like, I feel like that's one of the reasons they started putting the Mulchamis. But okay, here's my conspiracy theory. You know how like during Worlds or whatever, they're finally dipping their toes into like the Chinese market and they called it properly. Like they weren't really doing it prior to this, and like Worlds and everything kind of really highlighted how nobody except Japan to like any extent is willing to tolerate Maxi. Like I feel like the reception on that was like genuinely terrible. So I feel like that's probably the reason where like they can't keep designing for Maxi when there's like when the other formats don't like. I don't think they care about the TCG. I think it's like the Chinese audience in particular that they're talking about here. What's it called? I think that's the reason the Mulchamis are being printed, because like then they can like they're hoping that these will like be accepted by the player base, which genuinely I do kind of think so, because I think the main reason people hate Maxi, me included, is like the one situation when Maxi is just like intolerable, like no matter how, like there's no justification for it, is when you go first and you draw a Maxi and you just end on it after your combo. Like
and you draw 3 more hand traps off it because you defend your engine out.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
no, I would say that there's only no justification for Max C existing in Master Duel because it's the best of one.
Yes.
And
No, I don't know. I feel like it being what's called in best of one is kind of like the reason it's legal there, because like it's like unlike the Mulchamis, it's like a card you will main. Like the Mulchamis, you probably will not want to main, or maybe you will want to main the new one. I don't know.
The new
Also,
one is
Slushy
probably
played quite this whole
powerful
time.
enough for it.
Yeah,
well,
the
because
new one
Slushy only
maybe,
plays
I'm not-
based cool alt formats that don't have Maxi, so he's just enlightened.
I feel like he probably plays old formats that had like Maxi too, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
it
thought
it wasn't really a problem back then.
yeah, because it's
Yeah.
a card design issue, which I think is really the thing that also people don't want to address. Is Max C was printed in 2011, and it wasn't a problem until, or quote unquote problem until 2017. I'd say it only really became a problem with, I guess, post-pandemic card design.
Reminder
I don't
that Kevin Stewart and Jerome McHale designed Maxi.
I just don't think
Just
you can,
just want to point out that like half the most broken cards that I hate were designed in TCG in the first place. Nemiru and Maxi both are fucking
Yo, look at Unlimited.
I love Mystic Mind. Base Patrol, an actual card that stops, comboing. With
No,
Base Patrol.
no,
Hey,
Whip,
Mystic
Whip,
Mind
you
sheds.
don't
No,
love Mystic Mind, do you?
Okay,
I don't love Mystic Mind so much as like I don't mind it in the format because
We
I
managed to
played.
talk about the cards that people hate before
I played
Maxi.
like what's it called? I played what's it called again? Labyrinth, and Labyrinth
Yeah.
is like the one meta deck that like has a good matchup against Mystic Mind. It's like, and it could
Okay,
play
also-
into really fun games like 20 turn like versus Altergeist Mystic Mind and stuff like that. Like that was fun.
No.
here's my radical alt Yu-Gi-Oh opinion. Mystic Mine and Max C are literally the same card.
Yes. they
Yeah,
are.
that's the thing.
No.
That's the thing.
Yep.
I feel like
I get
Maxi
I
is,
get
like,
the angle you're at. 100% agree. Hard agree.
I know what you mean
No.
because I've thought about the same thing. To me, Mystic Mine has always been like the good Maxi because everything Maxi does
Oh my God.
is like Mystic Mine does better in like an actual like game sense.
No.
No.
I
Like,
hate
if
Maxi to
I-
death, but Mystic
if I
Mine, I
were-
don't mind that card so much.
If I were to give them a more charitable
How topical,
like-
Richard.
description, I would say that they're the same concept but on different extremes, because obviously that's what they are. Is they both create non-games, but Max C gives you the illusion of playing a game, while Mystic Mind doesn't.
Literally
Mystic
prevents you
Mind-
from playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, okay. Max C stops you from playing a turn, which can in turn stop you from playing a game. But Mystic Mind is just don't play the game.
Mystic
just no
Mine
game.
actually- yeah, but Mystic Mine accomplishes
Would you
the thing
rather
that Maxi
have
wishes that it does.
limited
Like,
bacon
when
but
you
no
look at
Yu-Gi-Oh?
when you look at
Yu-Gi-Oh,
tournament results
but no
and everything,
bacon.
Maxi doesn't actually stop combo decks from having representation. Mystic Mine, when it's in the format, it basically
Wait,
shuts
Whip,
down. Like,
Whip,
yes,
Whip. I have a question for you.
yes.
Would you rather have
Mystic Mine daughter.
cards, but no Yu-Gi-Oh, or cards, unlimited
no.
cards, but no cards?
But that's not what happened. That's
Oh
not what's
my
happening.
God.
Mystic Mind makes the game. Mystic Mind makes like an interesting game. It actually like.
No, shut. All right, no, I'm
like,
calling this
Mystic
discussion
Mind
now.
Actually turns
Whip,
off combos,
Whip's going
like,
off script.
It actually stops the. Like he's right. The unlimited
Shut
player
it down.
is right.
Shut it down. Okay,
Hang
But-
on, there's a fire.
Ringo City moment. How's the deck coming?
Also, Bloomble is
Yukichi?
completely
Oh,
correct, by
I've
the
been
way.
done for the past 10 minutes. But
Whip thinks that like this because
Let us
people
start that.
That was a really good
play actual
discussion
removal
until
protecting me with it.
the
Thank
far
you.
radical decided Mystic Mind was fair.
It's not a radical position to have. It's a
Mind
reasonable
Stunner,
one.
Maxi Donner.
I will say also though that I think the TCG players' more visceral response to Mystic Mine at the time compared to Maxi when it eventually got banned and Maxi and Master Duel is probably just because I felt this way. For context, I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively in 2012, I would say.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily consider myself good at Yu-Gi-Oh, but I think I have a decent grasp on the concepts and whatnot. And I've felt for many years that TCG players aren't very good at deck building. And
Nope.
I would make the argument, like nowadays, it slightly shifted more in favor of TCG players.
So
but...
see, I'll roll the die while they're
Absolutely.
topping.
Yeah,
We
but
can
I'm
continue
doing-
discussing
oh my God, I'm
slightly,
going against Slushy on this day of all.
but that was in fact 20 solid minutes of discussion about Maxi.
Oh yeah.
Yukichi,
Okay. You know what?
I'm gonna need you
Whip.
to repost that one screenshot again at some point. This is the 27,000th time we've had this discussion.